This kind of feels like when you would make like a fortune teller in class. If you know anything about specifically jacquards, but especially ones with metallic threads, they are extremely scratchy. Hi, welcome back to my channel. I'm Nabila, and if you have watched any of my videos before, you'll know that I talk a lot about how much I love functional art. And that's something that I enjoy in my own personal style, when something is really functional and useful, but it also looks very beautiful. So that is exactly the type of project that I'm going to be working on today. It is the Flowertwist Flowertwist Mini Bag, and I am just so excited to sew this up. It just looks like such a fun project. So if you watch my sewable gifts by skill level video, you'll know that I mentioned this pattern in that video. I was basically saying this looked like a great pattern to batch make for gifts. So as I sew this up, I will let you know if I was correct in that assumption. It's also really great because it's got a bunch of small pieces, so you can use your scrap fabric for this project. That's something I love about Robert's wood patterns in general. They're all very small pieces and they're intricately interweaved to make a beautiful design. If you haven't heard of Robert's wood patterns before, that's basically what they're all about. They have this beautiful sculptural effect to their patterns, and they're a more feminine style and they're super detail oriented. Typically, their patterns will take you probably days to make. I am hoping that this pattern will only take me the afternoon, but we'll see. It is one of their more simple projects, so hopefully it won't take much more than an afternoon or two to work on. I am so excited to dive into my first Robert's wood pattern. It's something that I've been eyeing for a long time. I already have my paper pattern pieces cut out, so we are gonna go right into cutting our fabric. Okay, so we're here at the cutting table, and I'm going to be using 3 different gold fabrics that I just had laying around. I've had some of these since college, so I'm really excited to hopefully use them up for this project. I don't think I'll use up these fabrics completely, but it's always a good feeling to use what you already have and not have to run to the store for anything. Another reason I'm excited to use these up is because 2 of these are jacquard fabrics with a metallic thread. So if you know anything about specifically jacquards, but especially ones with metallic threads, they are extremely scratchy if you are using them in a situation where it's like touching your skin directly. It's gonna just be really uncomfortable. So I'm so glad to use these up in a bag where that's not really as much of an issue. So this pattern has a lot of different variations you can do with the petals. So you can make the petals out of 1 single fabric, 2 different fabrics, and 4 different fabrics. And for today, I'm gonna be using the variation with 2 different fabrics. So I'm gonna use these 2 jacquards here to offer some contrast against each other. And then I'm gonna be using this gold satin as the base for the straps and the base lining and all of that. So yeah, let me go ahead and lay my patterns out on the fabric so we can get started on cutting. So I really want to make this bag into like a daily wear bag for me, but I'm actually not sure if it's going to be the right size for all of my essentials. So this bag that I'm making today actually will just be a wearable toile. And even though it's a wearable toile, I picked some more fancy fabrics because 1, I don't know when I'm going to get another chance to use these fabrics, but 2, I actually was thinking I could wear this bag to a wedding. I obviously don't need to carry all my essentials with me to a wedding anyway, so I feel like this would be a great bag for that purpose. I'm going to make it exactly how the pattern instructs me to for this one, but if I make another one for my daily carry bag, I was thinking about enlarging the pattern by, I don't know, like 25%, because this does look like a pretty small bag to me. You know, of course, making it the second time around, I'll make it a little bit better anyway, so it's good to get the practice in. So if you watched my last video where I tried quilting for the first time, you'll know that I don't have a heat erasable pen. And after filming that video, I really should have picked up a heat erasable pen, but I still haven't. So this pattern will be kind of interesting to do because it seems like you need to have every little piece marked. There's like little notches and numbers and letters on the pattern pieces. So I don't know how I'm going to label all that. Hey, this is Nabila from the future, and I just wanted to pop in to say this bag is pretty difficult to put together if you don't have everything labeled. So if you are making it, definitely label everything. Once it's all labeled, the instructions are incredibly straightforward. You'll see in this video that I kind of had a hard time with this project until I picked up those heat erasable pens. So especially if you are a beginner, but even if you're not, I definitely recommend to label everything for this project. It will make your life so much easier. Oof, it is fraying a lot. I'm definitely gonna need to get the vacuum out and vacuum up all these metallic threads. Okay, I finally have all my pattern pieces cut out and somewhat labeled. It was easy for me to label the pattern pieces that I had fused. I decided to fuse the entirely metallic fabric because it was kind of thin, and because the fusible that I use is white, I was able to kind of label it inside the seam allowance with just pencil. But it would be kind of hard for me to label the jacquard pattern pieces, so hopefully that ends up okay. So I'm gonna start sewing now, and it's rather late in the day, so I'm just gonna see how far I can get. To reinforce the seams of the petals, the instructions tell you to sew at a small stitch length and then trim your seams down so that when you flip it right sides out, it'll be really nice and crisp. So that's another reason why it's important to label everything, because once you trim that seam, it's already cut, and that could make it kind of frustrating if you make a mistake, which I did, and I will explain in the next clip. Okay, I'm back in my studio for day 2 of sewing this flower mini twist bag, and I am so excited to get started today because today we are going to be working on the fabric manipulation of this bag. So yesterday where I left off, I sewed all 4 pieces together. So before I had sewn all 4 pieces together, I was looking at my pattern pieces and I realized that I had made a mistake when I sewed petal 3 and 4 together, and I had sewn them on the incorrect side. So I had fixed that real quick. That kind of mistake might have been avoided if I had been marking all the little notches and helpful guidelines that they give you in this pattern. But actually, on that note, I did go to the store and get these pens, and so I am going to use these today to mark things, and it'll really help me with this fabric manipulation. I was skimming the instructions, and basically what it looks like is you sew the petals in a certain way on the base fabric, and then you twist it and you sew it down a little bit off center, so that gives you that beautiful structural shape. So I can see how that might get really confusing if I don't have everything marked correctly. So I'm excited to try these out, and I think that will really help. I actually have already been sewing a little bit today. Sometimes I find it helpful to finish the more like brainless parts of a pattern. So I went ahead and sewed my strap and my ties this morning. So that is ready to go for when I get to that step. And yeah, so far so good. This pattern has been relatively simple. I will say I probably made it a little bit more hard for myself by using a fabric that frays metallic thread everywhere. So in between steps, I've been having to clean up so I can maintain a tidy workspace. But all in all, it's not that bad, and I am still glad that I am able to use this fabric up. But yeah, I'm gonna get started on working today. I think the first thing that I wanna do is just double confirm that this will erase with heat on these particular fabrics. And then I'll be getting into the fabric manipulation, which I've already said I'm really excited for. So let's get into it. Okay, I've marked this as best I can. And I'm actually not sure if it makes more sense to mark on the right side of the fabric or the wrong side, but I've marked on the wrong side for this side, and then for the base pattern, I marked on the right side because I believe we're sewing them wrong sides together. So I think it'll be helpful to have these markings facing me. And I wasn't sure if the ink was gonna come out completely, so I did use a little bit of Taylor's wax on that section. So now I'm going to turn this flower section right sides out, and I believe it'll remain right sides out, and I'm gonna press this to try to get all the petal shapes really crisp. Okay, I took my time to press this really well, and now we got all the petal shapes outward like this. And now I believe the next step is to kind of match where this petal section is to the base section. So let me read the instructions really carefully because this is a part I really don't want to have to unpick and do again. So let me just really make sure that I know what I'm doing. Okay, so basically if I'm reading these instructions correctly, they are supposed to be wrong sides facing. So I marked the right side of the base fabric. So wrong side to wrong side. So I just need to make sure I'm matching up 3, 4, 1, 2. Yeah, that looks correct. This kind of feels like when you would make like a fortune teller in class. I don't know if y'all ever did that or if I'm aging myself. So basically what I'm doing is I'm pushing my pin through the base fabric, and then I'm kind of just folding back to make sure it is in the correct layer or the correct position of the bottom. And that's making it a lot easier. It's actually not too bad. It just, takes a little bit of time. I guess another thing you need to make sure you don't do is accidentally stitch some layers together. I can see that it might be difficult to not catch like the outer petal here. When I stitch this, I'm gonna go slow and steady, and I think it'll be okay. Okay, so that's all pinned here. So you just stitch around the square. You don't stitch the X that the square makes. That maybe is just good for making sure you have everything aligned correctly. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that. So here's that square all stitched up. Looks pretty good actually. It feels like a gift or something. Okay, so I have just sewn that square and I haven't changed the position of anything since I've sewn it. And now is the part of the twist. So I'm gonna move the camera so you can see that. So I marked everything really tiny, so I don't know if you can see, but that's 3 and this is the petal 3 and so on. And so now I'm going to twist everything anti-clockwise to create the flower. So the instructions say that you're twisting the base piece, and you are in a sense, but in practice it felt more like matching each petal to their end point, which resulted in everything getting pretty scrunched up. So I added more pins to flatten everything out so that it would be easier to sew. Okay, so this is what it's looking like all pinned up, and everything is matching up really nicely. This is what it's looking like on the other side. I haven't really arranged this side that much because I want to stitch it in place first. So let me go ahead and sew this up. But so far, I really like how this is coming together. It's actually quite easy, and especially way more easy now that I can see all my markings so clearly. So let me go ahead and stitch this up, and then hopefully we can finish this bag today. Here is the finished flower sewn on to the base piece, and it's looking pretty good. I think I could still like fidget with this a little bit more, but I am really liking how that's coming out. It looks so nice with this shiny fabric. And now I think I'm going to be assembling the lining pieces, and then I think I attached this at the end. So let me go ahead and do that. I don't know how much of that I will film because I don't know if it'll be interesting. So far so good. This is not taking any time at all. Okay, so I have just completed sewing the back section up, and it's looking pretty nice and neat. I will say something that was confusing for me is I am using the same fabric for my back and my lining pieces. So if you are a beginner, I would say it might make more visual sense for you to have actual lining pieces that look different, or label those pieces, because that kind of made me a little bit confused when I was putting this together. So I needed to really like double check my instructions and make sure I had the right pieces together. But it all ended up okay. I think this is all good. And now the last part is somehow attaching this to the flower. I think it's actually right sides together, and then not catching the lining piece. And then the lining piece has a hole in it, so I should be able to, I guess, flip everything out in that hole and it'll be right sides out. I am saying that like a question because I can't visualize how that is gonna work actually. So I am going to take my time with this. Maybe I'll baste it just to double check, because I feel like it shouldn't work, but at the same time, I don't doubt the instructions, obviously. So the one thing that's kind of rough about this is I have my base fabric all like nicely labeled, but I didn't bother doing that for my back piece. So I might want to do that first before I finish it up, because it's gonna help me like put all the pieces the correct side together. But yeah, I am almost done. I think this might be the like one of the last steps. I can't believe that I'm almost done so quick, and like the finished result just looks so nice. Well, I guess this isn't even really finished, but yeah, I am really excited to finish this up. I am loving how this is looking, and it's really satisfying. So I'm going to carefully label this back piece, and we'll see if I manage to do this correctly. I think if I just follow the instructions exactly how they're listed, it'll be fine. But I don't know, this part just makes me nervous for some reason. And Roberts Wood has a video of them making this bag, but they don't show this part that clearly, and I think that's what's making me doubt that this will work for some reason. But yeah, let me just try it. Okay, so I have my back piece better labeled now, and my base piece. And I'm gonna tuck all my straps and ties inside the bag like they say to do, because I think that'll help me not catch all of that. And I'm just sewing the back portion to this portion here. Okay, so I just need to sew this all up and not catch the lining. So I'm just gonna really take my time while I'm sewing this, and hopefully I don't catch anything, and this bag will actually be finished soon. Okay, so I've successfully sewn the flower piece to just the back piece and not the lining. So the next step actually in the instructions is to trim along this wavy edge, and I think that's so that everything can lay nice and crisp. But I just want to turn everything inside out first to make sure that this is correct before I trim anything. So let me go ahead and do that now. Okay. Oh wow, okay, so nice. So it's gonna, the lining sits back in like that. Okay, wow, 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 wow. That is so cool. Okay, let me turn this back so that I can clip those seams, but now I can really see how this is coming together, so I'm excited. Okay, I'm done sewing this mini twist bag and it came out so nice. I am really impressed with how, I don't know, high quality this looks. I mean, obviously the shiny fabric adds a lot to this design, but yeah, it just looks so nice. So I was originally thinking that if I were to make this into my daily carry bag, I would add a zipper to the back, and that might be true, but I will say that because this is such a small opening, this being a tie feels very like secure. I don't think much is gonna get out of this gap here, so I actually feel pretty good about it being a tie at this size, I will say. But if I were to make this my daily carry bag, I think I would make it just slightly bigger just to carry all of my essentials. It's kind of a small bag. It is about, I would say like 8.5 inches wide and about 7 inches in depth for like what you're actually able to put in this bag. But it's a different kind of shape, so you have to keep that in mind for the capacity of this bag. They do have a larger bag pattern, but I think that it would be too large for someone of my frame to have as their daily carry. So that's why I think I would adapt specifically this pattern if I were to make it into my daily carry bag. But yeah, it is so beautiful. It really is like a work of art. So I will say that I still stand by the idea that a confident beginner could tackle this project. I will not say that it's like completely easy. I kind of already had an idea in my head of how this was going to come together, so that made it kind of easy for me to work up. But if you are a beginner and you want to tackle this project, I would recommend making a toile first or using some cheap fabric to try this out first before you sew it up with like really nice material. Because I think that if you are using really nice material and you made a mistake, with a lot of the seams being trimmed, it might be hard to go back and correct certain mistakes. I mean, it wouldn't be entirely impossible, but it would just be like kind of frustrating. So I think that if you are a confident beginner, I would definitely recommend doing a like test version. It really doesn't take that long to sew up, but I think you'll just understand how this pattern comes together a lot better if you do it that way. I forgot to answer if I thought this would be a good project to batch make for gifts. I think yes, but only if you were to label everything. If I were to make these as gifts, I would make the flower start to finish one by one so that the hard part is done, and then make all the linings and finish it off from there. I would also recommend fusing all your petal pieces. I only did the thinner gold pieces, but I can tell that this white jacquard is not like folding over as nicely. That is definitely something to keep in mind. But it still looks really nice, like it's not a big deal. Especially since I'm gonna be taking this to a wedding, I think this will be perfect. And it didn't take too long to work up. I'm gonna use the timestamps from my camera to help me tell you how long this took me to work up, and I'll put that on screen. But it really wasn't too bad at all. Kind of felt like a very satisfying puzzle. And yeah, I just really am impressed by how nicely this worked up. Obviously, it would have been easier if I had labeled everything from the very beginning, but once I got that heat erasable pen and started labeling everything, it was actually so easy. So yeah, I think you should definitely give this a try if this is a pattern that you're interested in, especially as the first Roberts Wood pattern. I think this was a really nice project to have completed. I was putting this bag on in the mirror and just seeing how it looked, and I just love it. I think the strap might be a little long for me right now, but that's easy to shorten. I might just knot the strap honestly for this bag since this won't be my daily carry, but I am really glad that I made this wearable toile because it really helped inform me how I'm going to make a bigger version of this. And I'm so excited to wear this to the wedding that I'm going to. I'm gonna show you some more clips of me with this bag on, but that is all for today's video. I hope you enjoyed it and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.